Learners. Today we will be covering Power Dynamics, Unit 7, Basis of Power, and Unit 8, Politics of Power in Organizational Dynamics, of course code MMPC 006. There are certain key terms which we'll cover before starting on. First is power. Power is a potentially sinister subject. Parr says by Bairstow in 1950, he stands behind every association and sustains its structure. Without power, there is no organization, or without power, there is no order. Paradoxically, the most potent exercise of power may be invisible. Power relations can be subtly changing and ambiguous. In theory, managers command and employees obey. In practice, it is not always so. Indeed, what appears as unquestioning obedience may actually be a covert form of resistance. It is useful, therefore, to understand something about the nature of power in organization that we will see in further slides. Next important key term in this section is politics. Politics is not just about international affairs, parliaments, or domestic issues. Organizations are themselves system of political activity. Economics may influence organizational decisions, but politics is the ultimate arbiter. It is not enough for managers to be planners, organizers, analysts, and strategists. They must also be politicians in their respective organizations. Power and politics are very closely related concepts. The recognition of political realities of power acquisition in today's organization and an organization examination of some specific political strategies for acquiring power are of particular interest for understanding the dynamics of organizational behavior. Let's understand what is power. It is an absolute simple term means the ability or capability of a person to do things the way he or she wants it to be done. The person's power is usually seen by his or her strength in influencing others to make them do what he or she wants them to do. The popular sociologist Max Weber defined power as the probability that one actor within a social relationship will be in a position to carry out his own will despite resistance. Having power in an organization helps that person to influence others, make them to do things that they are otherwise reluctant to, and to avoid conflicts and achieve organizational goals. So, as a concept, power is said to be like love, impossible to define but easy enough to recognize, which is like Martin in 1977. It is understood as an ability to influence other people and events. In other words, of White and Vietnam, he says power is the ability to influence people of things, usually obtained through the control of important resources. A comprehensive definition of power is given by Dell in 1957 when he wrote that A has power over the extent that he can get B to do things B would not otherwise do. So here we see that A we can assume as a or C as a manager or a supervisor has a power over an extent that he can get the things done from the B. Otherwise, we will not do it. We would not otherwise do it. So it is very important to have power and for the production of intended effects and the productivity. Dell's definition suggests that power must overcome resistance in order to succeed, whereas according to Russell, power need not only imply resistance. All the above definition suggests that power involves compulsion. There has been a recent trend towards empowerment, the shifting of power away from managers into the hands of subordinates. Empowerment occurs in varying degree in different organizations. So, in a nutshell, when we say movement of power from manager to rest of the subordinates, this is it can be termed as empowerment. Certain features of power are specific, dependency, expand or contract, or reciprocal relationship. Power is a specific in sense that it may be exercised by some people in some circumstances. Power may not be exercised by all people in all circumstances. Dependency refers to it is very important feature. It is the greater the dependence of one person on you, the greater is the amount of power you can exert on you. So it is seen in most of the organizations where the subordinates are very, maybe in an initial stage of their career, they are very dependent for even for the daily tasks. So they exert the power of them. Expand or contract. Power is elastic. People who are habitual to exercise power may try to acquire more and more power and expand. In some organizations, due to changing position of a manager in an organization, that is shift from one department to other way may cause contraction in one, because their the power may be lessened. This shifting of authority also leads to expansion and contraction of reciprocal relationship. The power relationship is in an organization is reciprocal in nature. Power exists due to relationship between two or more groups or a people. It is based on two-way concept of influencing others and being influenced. So when we see the features of power, so collectively it is not one man, one side or one man show. It is a reciprocal. It is very specific, which are exercised in some circumstances. Everywhere it is not possible. Dependency in terms of daily tasks, or maybe sometimes when we go to the extreme, it is also happens in an also hampers the emotional well-being of a person also, and shifting from one position to another or shifting from responsibilities to authorities also you know expand or contract the power of a person. So certain views of power and influences, one is autocratic, where the power flows downward. It basically comes from the quantitative structure from the management. Someone loses and someone gains, have it as a fixed amount. So it is mainly from the top to bottom. And mainly when we talk about the designation wise, it is coming all the way from managers to subordinates directly. Whereas the participative is opposite of that, where the power has variable amount. It flows in all directions. The power comes from both official and unofficial channels and applied by activities in a group. There are certain positive and negative consequences of power. On one hand, powerful CEOs can align an entire organization to move together to achieve goals. So this is a part of the CEO or the top management, where they align the objectives with the of the organization among the employees. The amazing philanthropists such as Paul Farmer, a doctor who brought hospitals, medicines, and doctors to remote Haiti, the Gurg Morrison, a mountaineer who founded the Central Asia Institute and built schools across Pakistan, draw on their own power to organize others towards lofty goals. They have changed the lives of thousands of individuals in countries around the world for the betterment. So positive impact of the power is mainly when a person takes in charge, takes influence the people to do some task. Whereas the negative refers to the autocracy, where it can destroy the company and the country's life. The phrase power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Was first said by English historian John Everidge Edward Dalberg, who warned that power was inherently evil and its holders were not to be trusted. So the power need not to give to, it's very important to be on a good hands. So history shows that power can be intoxicating and can be devastating when abused, as seen in high-profile cases such as those involving Enron corporations and government leaders such as impeached Illinois Governor Rod Malkovich in 2009. One reason that power can be so easily abused is because individuals are often quick to conform. To understand this relationship better, we will examine the famous researcher who studied conformity in various contexts. So there are a lot of reasons, but among that, to get the negative impact, to see the negative consequences of marriage, when the individuals and the people are very quick in confirming the consequences or the impact. So differentiating power from authority and influence. So these are basically power, authority, and influence go hand in hand, where the power refers to capacity to influence others, whereas authority is the source of power, and the influence is usually conceived of being broader in scope than power. So when we say power, it refers to capacity to influence others, means a person who possesses power has the ability to manipulate or change the behavior of others. So he has so much of power or so much of influential person that even he can change the behavior of person. But along with that, it is generally this as context can be seen as the top management, or maybe when the employees are very much influenced with a powerful person of their organization, like CEOs or CXOs, or maybe any top management person. Authority is the source of power. Authority is the legitimate and it confers legitimacy to power. Power itself need not to legitimate. Authority exists where one person has a formal right to command and other has a formal obligation to obey. This is the line of function which is followed by from superior to subordinate. Authority may be seen as institutionalized power, legally obliged to comply. So influence is usually conceived of being broader in scope than power, means when influence is more closely associated with leadership than power. But both obviously are involved in leadership process. In organizations, employees may influence decisions through joint consultative committees and other mechanisms, yet the organization reserves the final say. Certain sources of power, which are given by French and Bremen, the main five interpersonal sources of power can be reward power, coercive power, legitimate power, expert power, and referent power. The reward power. Reward power is an individual's ability to influence others' behavior by rewarding their desirable behavior. If, for example, a person have a or a manager have a power to give the reward to an employee for their desirable behavior. So that is called reward. We have that power. Employees comply with requests and directives because of the authority of managers to grant reward in form of praise or promotions or salary increase, bonuses, or even time. Reward power can be lead to better performance, but not only as long as the employee sees a clear and strong link between performance and rewards. Coercive power. Coercive power is an individual's ability to influence others' behavior by means of punishment for undesirable behavior. For example, subordinates may comply because they expect to be punished for failure to respond favorably to managerial directives. Punishment may be major or minor, depending on the nature of the task done or missions or commissions. Legitimate power. Legitimate power often refers to managers' ability to influence subordinates' behavior because of the manager's position in the organizational hierarchy. Subordinates may respond to such influence because they acknowledge the manager's legitimate right to prescribe certain behaviors. Legitimate power is an important for organizational concept. The manager is empowered to make decisions within a specific area of responsibility, such as quality control, accounting, human resources, marketing, and so on. Then is expert power. Expert power is an individual's personal ability to influence others' behavior because of recognized skills, talent, or specialized knowledge. To that extent, managers can demonstrate competence in analyzing, evaluating, controlling, and implementing the task of subordinates. They will acquire expert power. Referent power. Referent power is an individual's ability to influence others' behavior as a result of being liked or admired. For instance, subordinates' basis of power identification with a manager often forms the basis of referent power. This identification may include the desire of the subordinate to emulate the manager. Referent power is also associated with the individuals who possess admired personality characteristic, charisma, or a good reputation within an area or an organization. So these are the five sources of power given by French and Ribbon. Structural sources of power. When we say structural sources, structure is knowledge as a power and resources as a power. So the sources of power is either come from the knowledge or from either from the resource. Organizations are information processors that must use knowledge to produce goods and services. The concept of knowledge as a power means that individuals, teams, groups, or departments that possess knowledge are crucial in attaining the organization's goals. Intellectual capital represents the knowledge. The skill of a person is referred to as a knowledge, know-how, and competency that exist in the organization. This intellectual capital can provide an organization with a competitive edge in the marketplace. Whereas the resource is a power defined or maybe referred to as an organization need a variety of resources, which includes some money, resources, equipment, materials, customers to survive. The importance of specific resource to the organization success and the difficulty in obtaining them vary from situation to situation. The departments, groups, or individuals who can provide essential or difficult to obtain resource acquire more power in the organization than others. Then is decision making as a part. When we say decision making, it is a process in an organization which creates more or less different power differences among individuals or group. Managers exercise considerable power in an organization simply because of the decision making ability. Although decision making is an important aspect of power in every organization, cultural differences make for some interesting differences in the relationship. For example, in Chinese organization, decision making power was more decentralized in manufacturing firms than in service organizations. The reverse was true in British firms, with power being more decentralized in the service organization than in the manufacturing firms. Then is network. Network is refers to the structural and situational part depends not only on access to information, resources, and decision making, but also on the ability to get cooperation in carrying out the task. Managers and departments that have some connecting links with other individuals and departments in the organization will be more powerful than those who don't. It is only identified three basic resources of power, namely coercion power, remunerative power, and normative power. Coercion power is associated with the alienation and hostility, whereas the remuneration power is associated with the calculative involvement, and the normative power associated with the moral involvement. Coercion form of power means the ability to manipulate physical sanctions, including physical chastisement, forcible detention, to deprive a person of food, sleep, and other physiological needs. Force is therefore required in order to obtain compliance. Example of such organizations such as jails, detention centers, concentration camps, and even some psychiatric hospitals. Remunerative powers. Remunerative power refers to the ability to manipulate material rewards and sanctions, including salaries, wages, promotion, and payments. Utilitarian organization engage in producing goods and services for sale in marketplace. Material inducement is required to procure compliance. Such organizations include factories, hotels, and commercial enterprises. Normative power rests upon human need for approval and recognition. It refers to the ability to manipulate symbols, including medals, gadgets, badges, and certificates. Normative organizations are those whose mission is primarily idealistic or value based. Such organizations include voluntary organizations or political groups, schools, universities, hospitals. The members of these organizations are highly committed. French and Revan's typology of power, when it says about coercion, expertise, information, legitimacy, and reference, the coercion is ability to deprive, to the decrease another's outcome, whereas the expertise is possession of specialized knowledge, and information is possession of control of access of important data concerning the organization and its environment. Legitimacy refers to where the power that emanates from the person's position in the organization, and the referent refers to the ability of exert charisma to procure commitment. Let's see how to use power ethically. To consider power ethical, power related behavior must meet three basic criteria. First, we need to understand does the behavior produce a good outcome for people, both inside and outside the organization. Second, does the behavior respect the right of all parties? Means it emphasizes on the criteria of individual rights, free speech, privacy, and process are individual rights that are to be respected, and power-related behaviors that violate these rights are considered unethical. Whereas the criteria of behavior which produce a good outcome for people refers to if the power-related behavior serves only the individual interest or falls in the help of organization reach its goal. It is considered unethical and it fails to help the organization. And third criteria is does the behavior treat all parties equitable or fair and fairly? And this question represents the criteria of distributive justice. Power related behavior that treats one party arbitrarily or benefits one party at the expense of another is ethical. So these are the three criteria, so the three questions when it relates to power related behavior, whether it is ethical or unethical. So now the question arises, how do employees respond when managers use the different kinds of power? According to Herbert Kellman, three distinctive types of reactions are likely to occur as people respond to attempt to influence their behavior. First is compliance. It ensures that people conform to the wishes or directives of others so as to acquire favorable outcome for themselves in return, which refers to reward power, coercive power, process power, information power, representative power will lead to compliance. Second is identification. Identifications occur when people accept the direction or influence of others because they identify with the power holders and seek to maintain relationship with them, not because they value or even agree with that they have been asked to. So all the legitimate power or expert power or the rational persuasion will lead to internalization. Internalization, people may adopt others' attitudes and behavior because this course of action satisfy their personal needs and because they find those or attitudes and behavior to be congruent with their personal value. This referent power will lead to identification and the legitimate power, exert power will lead to internalization. So, a manager or a leader uses power by several methods, which is known as power behavior. When they react against with respect of their power, That is called power behavior. The power behavior can be legitimate request, instrumental compliance, coercion, rational persuasion, personal identification, or information distortion. Legitimate request refers to when the manager requests that the subordinate comply because the subordinate recognizes that the organization has given the manager the right to make the request. Instrumental compliance refers to when it is based on the reinforcement theory of motivation. In this form of exchange, subordinate complies to get the reward the manager controls. Coercion refers to when he or she suggests or implies that the subordinate will be punished, fired, or warned if does not do anything. Rational persuasion is refers to when a manager can convince on facts the subordinate and compliance is the subordinate's best interest. Personal identification refers to when a manager who recognizes that he has referent power over the subordinate can shape the behavior of that subordinate by engaging in desired behavior. Whereas the information distortion, where the manager withholds or distort information to influence subordinates' behavior. Let's see individual and organizational power. Power is the ability to exert influence in the company beyond authority. Managers get power both from organization and individual sources. They derive organizational power by virtue of their position or the designation in an organization. On an individual basis, a manager has a personal power, which is based on their expertise and his power to control behavior. A supervisor individual's behavior may include job knowledge, personal influence, interpersonal skills, ability to do the things, ability to get the results, empathetic ability, persuasive ability, and physical strength. In order to keep leadership position and maintain stability in employment, managers need to enhance their personal power. Enhancing and maintaining power and authority does not come naturally. We have to work for it. So whatever be the organizational power given to an individual, he has to or she has to manage as per their designation. They have to balance the individual and the power given by the organization. So influence. What is influence? Because sometimes power and influence go hand in hand. So it refers to the ability to affect or shape the thoughts, behavior, or actions of others either directly or indirectly. It can come from various sources and can be exerted in different ways. Some of the examples of influence in action: when a CEO influences a company's culture and direction, social media influencers shaping consumer trends, political leaders guiding national policies, friends persuading each other's choices, advertisements affected by decisions, and the managers who are influencing their subordinates to that with their capabilities and their skills or maybe their knowledge. Responses to influence attempt resistance, compliance, and commitments. So, when somebody is influencing, there is always in response. It can come either by resistance, or by compliance, or by commitment. So, resistance occurs when the influence target does not wish to comply with that request. For example, a manager asked to do a particular task to a subordinate, and he does not because that he does not comply because that is not his work profile. So this is a resistance from a subordinate because in that case a manager is not that influential where it repels the influence attempt. Whereas the compliance occurs when the target does not necessarily want to obey but they do. So compliance refers to the mandate of doing that particular job. Whereas the commitment occurs when the target not only agrees to require but also actively supports it as well. So commitment refers to when our subordinate is very much influenced by the manager due to willingly due to their individual capability. So there are basically nine influential tactics. First is rational persuasion, which refers to which based on facts, figures, and on the logics and you know then it is inspirational appeals where it is mostly an inspiring others or motivating influencing others. Consultation, it is all about consulting, sitting together, finding out the best choice or best ways to come out of that, or giving the advice. Ingratitude refers to the flattery before doing job or after doing job. Personal appeal is on a personal front, where it refers to when it is a bonding between the two people. Exchange is all about this or that, or maybe in exchange of doing work. If for example, a manager asked to do a work, and in exchange of that, he or she will be getting a reward out of that. Correlation is all about mutually agreed. Collaborative pressure is when a person works under pressure or influentially pressurized by to do some a particular task, that is by compliance or by laws. Legitimating is they are required to do, whether they're willing to do or not. Dynamics of power. Power is part of fabric of an organization. To appreciate the reality of organization, it is necessary to know something about the nature and dynamics of the organization. So first comes the informal power. Informal power in theory, an employee is allotted sufficient power to enable him to do his job no more or no less. In practice, people in organization can acquire power because beyond what their formal role might suggest. So, power without authority is sometimes known as illegitimate or informal power. Informal power arises because the organization cannot legislate for even contingency. Organizational rules specify what employees can or cannot do in particular circumstances. Discretion. Discretion means when the person has an option of acting differently. Indeed, without it, the organization would run into difficulties. Power relations are inherently dynamic and apt to change over time. And resistance in organization is impetus to resistance in organization stems from potential for tension between organizational and individual interests. When the individual interests or the individual objectives and the organizational objectives are different, then resistance occurs. So there are different dynamics of power which are categorically into nine categories, that is distribution, dependency, uncertainty, compliance, indicators, power determinants, power consequences, symbols, and reputation. When we say distribution refers to those who are in power try to grab more of it. They strongly, restrict any attempt to weaken power. They by they withheld, and dependency refers to when it is indicated that the subordinate is dependent on manager for some specific task, for sanctioning leave or the promotions. Uncertainty refers to when organization seeks to avoid uncertainty, because it depends on the nature of an organization, what kind of organization it is. So the power is refers with this. Compliance refers to the rules and regulations or as per the laws, that whatever we there is no choice of not doing, it has to be done. Then indicators refers to when the people resist to use the power. So there are certain indicators when they are influenced, in what ways they will be influenced. So that is identified, and that is known as indicator. With the power determinants again are the same the method of assessing powers, what are the determinants of powers, then the symbols or power consequences, what can be the consequences of initiating one particular or specific powers, and reputation leads to not only the designation but also the reputation of a person in an organization, because that matters sometimes a lot if we see from the earlier point of view. So the senior people in the organizations, their reputation was already built in the organization. They are asked and they say values more than the compliance or more than the rules and regulations or the policies. So when we say the managerial power, it is an ability of a manager to influence his subordinates or other employees to influence, which can mean that the behavior or decisions of the subordinate changes after their interaction with a manager. A manager can derive his power in two dimensions. First, the manager can exercise the power he derives from his position in the organization, which can be called as positional power. And second, he can exert on his subordinates a power he derives from his own capabilities and behavior, which is called as the personal power. If the manager is able to influence his subordinates at the same time maintain their enthusiasm towards the work, and it becomes a very favorable situation for a organizational success. Because manager plays a very important role when we talk about the task or the influential exercises on the subordinates. So there are certain sources of power of an organization. One, it can be political network within an organization where the groups and subgroups are also formed. It creates a perception of dependence because whenever there is, it refers to when the person who is more powerful, who have more authority, the people are dependent on that. The departments and work unit part, then work activities also be the source of the power. The more which department or which department is doing good or they're achieving their targets, they have more power in an organization. Charisma refers to the charismatic personalities. It is seen that they have more powers in an organization. Individuals' knowledge, which we also call as intellectual capability, intellectual capital, that its reputation, professional credibility also gives a part to an individual on a whole. Overall, when we see from an organizational context, when we see departments or for example, in a department in a sales organization, which the team which is performing much more better, or maybe an individual who is performing much higher and giving the task to the organization, completing the targets on time, he or she have more power than the other individual in the organization. So these are few of the sources which consist of which comes creates the power within an organization on an individual or team. So power and influence is generally considered to have a broader scope than power. Both are equally important to the management and leadership processes. Power is a double-edged sword. The same power can be either negatively or positively influence a person, depending on factors like personality, intentions of a person, organization culture, and etc. So let's see, when we are talking about power, when we are talking about the influence, it also comes with organizational politics. Organizational politics are informal, unofficial, and sometimes behind the scene efforts to sell ideas. Influence an organization increase power to achieve other targeted objectives. So politics, according to Aristotle, is the result of multiplicity of interests that must be resolved in some way. In organization, political behavior focuses on obtaining and maintaining power to achieve a desired outcome is ambiguous, uncertain, and conflict-filled settings. So, political behavior in an organization is based on organizational factors and individual factors. Organizational factors refers to declining of organizational resources, high performance pressures, etc. Whereas the individual factors refers to the personality traits or the individual needs, etc. So, organizational politics is one which comes along with the power sometimes and with the influence of a person. So it leads to the result of organizational politics reduced to job satisfaction and performance. It increased anxiety among the employees. Procrastination is seen when there are organizational politics. Blame game is observed among the employees within an organization. It also develops sometimes a positive work environment in a way that it reduces negative political behavior, encourage the collaboration and constructive conflict management, along with a shared view of power based on partnership and empowerment. Every organization today has politics as a part of its day-to-day working. All organizations are entities with diverse interests which need to be aligned, which is why politics becomes an important part of every organization. If effective politics is not winning or losing every time, but it maintaining relationship and achieving results in the organization. So when we say conducive conditions or the prevailing conditions and which results in the political behavior, if the condition is ambiguous goals, it attempts to define goals to one's advantage. It results to because here the political behavior which comes out of it is defining goals to one's how does it advantage to individually. Limited sources. When the condition is of limited sources, it is always seen as a fight to maximize one's share of resources. Everybody wants to have the maximum share of resources. Dynamic technology. If the environment or the condition is of dynamic technology, then the political behavior is like to attempt to exploit unnecessary uncertainty of personal gain and environment. And when it is non-programmed decision, the attempts to make suboptimal decisions that favor personal gain. Organizational change, when there is change happening in an organization, so the result political behavior attempts to use reorganization as a chance to pursue own interest in. For example, the organization structure is changing, so everybody looks for a better hierarchical position or better authoritative position within the changed be structure. Or maybe with the dynamic technology, for example, the organization gave a unlimited access to a network. So here sometimes the personal gains comes in. They download the personal files or videos or movies or that may create if someone that is an undue advantage also, but it results to the uncertainty for personal gain also. So when it is the condition is of limited resources, so everybody looks forward to have the maximum piece of a cake for themselves so that they can get the advantage. So the political implication of power in an organization is very related. Power and politics are very related concepts. They're very interlinked. But the political behavior is the use of power, the acquisition of authority, or the attempt to influence others. So, politics can be used to achieve organizational goals or individual goals that are not in the best interest of the organization. The manager who drives his work unit in high performance levels in order to improve its reputation is an example of the same. So, politics can differ from one organization to other, and even between different units in the same organization. organization. In an organization, the ability to comprehend what others people fear or desire and utilize that knowledge to influence their actions is called political power. This political power is often misused more than using it for the benefit of the organization. Political strategies. Political strategies are defined as a written or sometimes unwritten plan to use certain specific political behavior to achieve a desired result or the outcomes. So when we strategize certain things, when we strategize any structure or the behavior, it depends. We there are certain specific political behaviors and to achieve the desired outcome. So, some of the political strategies to obtain the power is to taking counseling. Counseling is you know, is always advised, maintaining maneuverability, promoting limited communication, do not communicate too much so that they get maybe someone can get an advantage of exhibiting confidence. Exhibiting confidence also is one of the fantastic strategy which gives them to show that they have the power in an organization. So controlling access to information and person is it is seen that the people who are in power they use this strategy, making activities central and non-substitutable, creating a sponsor-property relationship, stimulating competition among ambitious subordinates. So whenever there are competition among those who are ambitious, it leads to the fulfillment of the result, the outcome, and this is one of the best strategy for a positive outcome in an organization. Seek out to be befriend and most influential individual in a situation. This is also a political strategy which is seen in an individual capabilities. Neutralizing potential opposition and making strategic replacements. Then is committing the uncommitted, which is the work, the task which is not committed, which is not mandate or which is not committed by anyone. Commit that. If somebody commit to do that particular task, is also a very good political strategy for retaining power in an organization. Forming a winning coalition, developing expertise. Developing expertise refers to upskilling, or training, or development, or certification. That also helps to attain power in an organization. Building personal structure, employing trade-offs, interact with others with the goal of building a positive relationship. Everybody like to have a positive relationship with others, and the people who have positive relationships, they can be able to form a good coalitions. They can be able to work in a collaborative manner. They can be able to create a good organization culture. So ultimately, an organization also wanted to give a power to authority to a person who builds a positive or a good organization culture within an organization. Using research data when when it's point of supporting one's point of view. So facts and figures are always welcome, and it is more rational way of attaining the power and knowing other people that they know uh, a step ahead or more than what they already know about the organization or particular subject. So restricting communication about real intentions and withdrawing from petty disputes. So this is one of the very good political strategy, or which is people are good, powerful people are known for this, that they don't get involved themselves into small petty disputes, and because the kind of the position they hold on, the kind of power they hold on, that doesn't suits their small disputes and get into that. unwelcome remarks can be there. So this is few of the political strategies. And when we talk about the politics is also needs to resolving conflict interest, where the organizations can be seen as political cauldrons where argument, compromise, and negotiations occur constantly. Conflict requires resolution. Politics can be seen as where conflict can be resolved. Politics also involves recognizing the interplay of competing interests. It is non-coercive means of producing order out of diversity. In words of Lasselwell, politics not economics determines who gets what, when, and how in organization. There is no political activity in the dictatorship because disagreement is not permitted. So, power in politics, when we are talking about more and more, it is very closely linked, as I mentioned in previous slides also. The distinction lies in mobilization. The control of material assets in a fundamental source of power. In theory, organization funds and budgets are allocated objectively according to department needs, but in practice, managers can do a better or worse according to their willingness to play politics and their skill in doing so. The most sought after resources are known as slack resources, and these slack resources are not allocated to a specific purpose. So, there are three types of dependence when people in organization try to create dependency. uh, there are three forms. One is resource dependence, psychological dependence, and ability to manage uncertainty. So resource dependent exists where an individual or department controls something vital to the organization, whereas a psychological refers to when it is created by subordinates by making themselves indispensable. There is a very famous example of Martin Bormann relationship with Hitler. So anybody wishing to see Hitler, they need to oblige and to apply through Bormann. So this is all about the psychological dependence. The ability to manage uncertainty is closely linked to expert power. Expert power is the person who is more knowledgeable, the person who have more skills or more abilities. The organization dislike uncertainty because it makes planning difficult and implies risk and instability. So the question arises is how to recognize political demands. So making demands supported by threats is crude and risky way of exercising power. Force generally stirs resentment. Moreover, if one party is powerful and it may result in a conflict of when any of the party is powerful, it may result conflict of interest. So demands are more likely to be met if they appear legitimate. For example, it is easier to grant a salary claim which politics of power is based on rate of inflation or comparison with similar such firms or professions. So common political behavior refers to inducement, persuasion, creation of an obligation and coercion, whereas inducement refers to it occurs when a manager offers to give something to someone else in return for that individual support, where persuasion refers to both emotional and logic. And the creation of an obligation involves a third political behavior that they are obliging for doing specific tasks. So, and coercion is use of force to get one's way. So, how to manage the politics? Managing politics is on three steps. First, it is instead of aiming at reducing or organizational politics, because it is there. When the people are there, then influential people are also there. So, powerful people are also there. Organizational politics is a part of an organization where don't aim to reduce that. No, managers need to focus on the activity that creates a healthy political environment. Maybe a competition between the team for the organization, to increase the organizational forms or to create the knowledge flows. So this also engage with others in an open and transparent manner. Second, when the managers need to be consistent in a way, They support the behavior and align interest and goals and responsibilities. And finally, the global team need to review and renegotiate norms and work habits of an organization on an ongoing and even on the beginning of a project. So engaging to diffuse the tensions. When there are no tension, there are no struggles, and there will be no negative politics in an organization. So there are certain political strategies for power acquisition is information strategy, financial information incentive strategy, and constituency building strategy. Information strategy refers to political decision makers by providing information, whereas financial strategy refers to honorarium or financial incentives or maybe paid travel, which is related to the financials. And constituency building targets to the grassroots mobilization of employees, suppliers, customers, public relations, or even the press conferences. So, maintaining alliances with powerful people is very important when we talk about the political strategies. Forming of coalition and alliances is required. Divide and rule is very well known political and military strategy, which is applied to acquisition of power in modern organization. For example, the business firm, the head of finance may generate conflict between marketing and operations in hopes to getting better share uh, or bigger share in a limited budget. Another strategy is to manipulate classified information, where the observational studies of managerial work have clearly demonstrated the importance of obtaining and disseminating information. Uh, so then next strategy can be making a quick showing, where this strategy involves looking good on some project or task right away in order to get the right people's attention. For example, an important but often overlooked strategy of a manager trying to get acceptance of knowledge management program is to show quick objective improvement in quality of product, service, or process. Then the other strategies can be collect and use IOUs. That is, the power seeker should do other people favors, but make it clear that they owe something in return and will be expected to pay up. Uh, the Godfather is a famous book and movie of the name Tony Spano, and recent HBO TV series used this strategy to gain power. Then another strategy is to avoid decisive engagement. This strategy of going slow and easy and evolutionary rather than a revolutionary approach of change. Attacking and blaming others is a political tactic. Some people try to make others look bad or wanted to make them look good. So blaming and attacking deflects the responsibility onto others. It is unethical and unacceptable. Progress once at a time. That's Campbell's head in a tent. The strategy involves taking one step at a time instead of doing multitasking, or maybe pushing a major project or for reorganization attempt. So small change can be foothold, and the power seeker can use a basis to get others. Wait for crisis, things must get worse before they get better. This strategy uses a reverse no news or is good news, that is bad news, get attention. Only under this crisis conditions can they get the necessary funding to move their colleagues ahead. Or maybe another strategy to take counsel with caution is suggested in concern with how to keep power than with how to acquire it. And another strategy can be aware of resource dependence, where controlling of resources of other persons or department need create considerably bargaining power. On one level, they are inevitable, cannot be prevented, but sometimes on the other, they are counterproductive or dysfunctional. So overall, we have covered the concept of power, the organization, the power derives from structure, sources of power stem from interpersonal and structural factors of the organization. We cover the interpersonal power sources that are categorized as reward, coercive, legitimate, expert, and referent power. Knowledge is an important source of power in an organization. The dynamics of power can be perceived from different dimensions. People in organization can power informally because organization cannot legislate on everything. Power in politics can play a key role in being beneficial in organization and its member when they are used in ethical, responsible, and empowering manner. The essence of politics lies in disagreement, diversity, scarcity, and interest of producing order out of diversity. Power and politics are very closely linked. And finally, we discuss about the individual and group interest also play a very important in politics, and there are certain political strategies, political competence may be important to executives as well as technical skills. Thank you so much for this discussion.